morning, everyone. I am Specialist Watson Francis, and I'm here this morning to give you an unclassified brief about the leader and the NCO leader. Before we proceed, I would like to go over some quick risk assessment. Our raw risk assessment is very low, and however, because we are conducting our brief indoors and an indoor environment, and also be careful of any tripping hazard. Watch as you step. And also, due to the high cases of COVID-19, we should practice good social distancing as directed by the CDC. And also, hand sanitizers are placed on the corners of the building. Make sure you are utilizing these hand sanitizers as directed. The purpose of our brief is going to inform you the legal authorities, responsibilities, and duties of what it takes to be an NCO in the Army. Let's go over our quick outline. Our introduction session is going to identify certain NCO roles and responsibilities that they have in the Army. We'll talk about the laws and regulations that support or that gives NCOs the authority to enforce standards. We will talk about the different types of authority of NCOs, duty and responsibility as well. And we will settle on soldiers' advocacy. And after the brief, all your questions are welcome. NCOs are the cohesive support and stability of the Army. They possess certain roles and responsibilities. They use these to make sure they enforce standards. Army Regulation 600-20 actually outline certain or various roles and responsibilities of NCOs. Some of these include ensuring welfare of soldiers, maintaining discipline, training soldiers, and executing the mission. All these are responsibilities that is bestowed on NCOs, and they should make sure they enforce standards. And the question is, are NCOs, do they have any legal authority to make sure they enforce standards on the junior enlisted soldiers? The answer is yes. Uniform Code of Military Justice under Army Regulation 27-10 actually give NCOs the legal authority to enforce standards, the regulatory standards, and discipline soldiers when they obey or they go do any act of misconduct. We will talk about authority of NCOs. Authority is being defined under Field Manual 7-21.13 as a legitimate power of leaders to direct subordinates or take action within the scope of their position. This is to say, as an NCO, you need to know where your authority comes from. You need to know what authorities do you have so that you can utilize them effectively. We have two types of authorities that you're going to talk about here. You're going to talk about command authority, and you're going to talk about general military authority. Command authority are the authorities that normally originate from above, from the government or from the president, and they are supplemented by law and regulations. And we can also talk about general military authority. General military authority is the authority that extends to all soldiers, actually to take initiative by taking appropriate action and act in the absence of orders. Now we talk about responsibilities. Responsibilities also means being accountable for what you do and what you fail to do. We have two types of responsibility that we're going to look at here. We're going to look at the command responsibility and individual responsibilities. Command responsibility actually refers to the responsibility of is a collective or organizational accountability, and it also tells you or includes how well the company or the unit perform. An example will be the commander responsibility that you have in the unit, because the commander is tasked to make sure he drive the whole unit or the whole company towards the mission. So that performance is being measured. So that responsibility is bestowed on a commander. And we talk about the individual responsibility. Individual responsibility also talks about the responsibility as to the NCO, you being accountable for your own personal conduct. For example, if you knew as an NCO you do not have enough funds on your account, but you still insist of going to the commissary to do some grocery shopping, if you get yourself into trouble, you are responsible for your own actions, and also not your own action as an NCO, but also for other soldiers and other NCOs. Now we talk about duties. Duty is something you do by virtue of your position. It could be moral or it could be legal. We will talk about the three types of duties that we have here. We have the specific duties, direct duties, and implied duties. Specific duties are duties that are job or positional related. We can talk about MOS duties. They are duties that actually relate to a specific MOSs. So any training that an NCO give to a soldier, anything that any duties that the soldier is performing, it is actually going to improve the MOS or the specialty of that soldier. And we talk about directed duties. Directed duties could include CQs, include staff duties, and also include soldier being assigned or a training NCO. At this moment, you are being directed or you are being directed to perform such a task. You will not find directed duties in the organizational, the unit organizational chart. Also, implied duties. Implied duties are duties where, as an NCO, you try to take initiative by creating the fostering environment for your soldiers. For example, you decide to go over some inspection to make sure soldiers are in their right uniform and their right appearance. Now we talk about soldiers advocacy. Soldiers advocacy is being the voice to our soldiers. Every soldier will be delighted to see his or her NCO speaking on his behalf in times of trouble or difficulties. This actually strengthens NCO soldier relationship, and also it actually also builds trust and competence to enhance command's mission. And what are the ways that we can do this? We talk about exhausting all non-judicial punishment. Make sure as an NCO you go through or you choose non-punitive corrective measures before you go in or recommend soldiers for other forms of punishment like court martial or judicial punishment, because you want to safeguard the career of the soldier that under you. Also, you also educate and inform commanders about your soldier. Educating and informing the commanders about your soldier is trying to give an update of how well your soldier is performing in that unit. And the last thing that we talk about is correct, educate, and reform. Make sure you correct your soldiers from their mistakes. Educate them by teaching them to understand what they did wrong and how they can do it right. And reforming your soldiers is trying to relieve them from their weaknesses so that they can just come back quickly on time to catch up with the other soldiers on track. With this, we are going to conclude. And our conclusion made us realize that NCOs have legal authorities, and these legal authorities or law that covers or that provides them is under the Uniform Code of Military Justice, which is from Army Regulation 27-10, actually support or give NCOs the legal authorities to actually enforce standards and discipline soldiers. And we also talk about soldiers advocacy. We realize that soldiers advocacy is very key because it strengthens NCO and soldier relationship. And finally, we realize that NCOs do not actually impose laws, but they reinforce laws. At this point, all your questions are welcome. Any question? All right, this concludes my brief. Thank you.